Hey guys.
Happy Sunday. So all of our family has now returned home. We had 10 days with Aaron's mom and sister, followed immediately by 4 days with our oldest daughter. So lots of fun.
And lots of driving.
Lots of driving. We went to the airport 4 times in a span of 2 weeks.
I would do it again, but...
Yeah. But needless to say, we were a little in need of a break after all of that. So we didn't drive anywhere for the first 5 days after everybody left. And we've basically just been catching up on stuff this week, catching up on sleep and all of the household chores and things that we had put aside while everybody was here. So we're going to be back to our normal videos next week. We're very excited to show you the projects that we have queued up. We've been ordering some supplies for projects, and I'm eager to get back in the kitchen and start sharing recipes again as well. So I'm going to kick off next week by sharing one of my favorite recipes with you guys. Now, today we pre-recorded one final room tour. We're going to be showing you the Gite bedroom. Now, this is a space that may be familiar to some of you if you've been watching our videos for a while, because we have shown you all of the little incremental bits and pieces of progress that we've been making up there, whether that was finding secondhand furniture on the cheap, something we repainted, or any kind of DIY project that we did, because I think it's important to see that you don't have to have a huge budget to have nice spaces, that you really just have to have a bit of patience.
Yeah, frugal's not always fast.
It isn't, for sure. So, I feel like there's kind of a tendency on TV and, online to see these spaces that are just transformed overnight. And, it's fun to watch those, but it's just not realistic for most people, because you probably don't have an endless budget to work with. You don't have a bunch of sponsors giving you free product like a lot of those influencers have. So I think it's important to see something that's more realistic, and it probably lines up better with your life and your experiences. So hopefully by watching our videos, you're seeing that with, secondhand shopping and DIY projects, and just finding ways to make the things that you have work for you in a better way than they currently do. Mm-hmm. So we're going to show you the Gite in what I consider to be, if not its final form, pretty close.
Yeah, pretty close.
Yeah, and that's taken us the 2 years that we've been here to get to that point. So things don't have to happen overnight. You just have to kind of have a goal and find ways to make incremental progress towards those. So hopefully you'll recognize a lot of the pieces and projects and things that we've been showing you, and finally now get to see it as a final finished space. So are you ready to show them the room?
Let's do it.
All right. Hi, guys. So it's about 1:30 a.m. Aaron and I are still cleaning and getting ready for his family's arrival tomorrow, which I guess is actually today now. We just finished putting the finishing touches on the 3rd floor Gite bedroom. So even though it's late, I thought I would take a minute and show you around the room and any of the little tweaks and changes that we've made over the past couple months. Okay, so let's start by just an overall look at the room, and then we can go through and I will point out the different pieces and what we paid for them, if I remember, and where things came from, or how we made things, or whatever. All right, let's do this. Right, so we've never actually done a nighttime tour before. So I suppose one of the benefits is that you get to see all the lamps and the light fixtures lit up and how the room looks at a different time of day. So let's go through some of the details and we'll talk about all of the prices and where things came from. Because really, this room is almost entirely secondhand. I think the only things that we've purchased new for this would be some plumbing fixtures, and I think that's it. I think this is all secondhand otherwise. Okay, so this rug, which fits the room perfectly, I mean, it could not be better, was a consignment store find. And I don't remember the price now, but it was reasonable for the size of the rug. And it worked perfectly with this bed. Now, I'm not sure if the colors are going to be true this time of day or not. So the bed is upholstered in dusty rose, and it has all of the beautiful brass nails around the edges. So we got this bed on consignment for 20 euros. Crazy good deal. The upholstery is perfect, and it had its matching footboard still. Now, this was sized for an older bed size, not really what is common nowadays. So we did have to basically build our own bed frame. So Aaron built a bed frame for this, which has allowed us to use this bed with what is basically the equivalent of like a queen size mattress here in France. So this is a 160 by 200. So that was really good. Very pleased with the inexpensive project. And then there was definitely a time in France where this particular shade of pink was popular, because after we got this bed, we started finding other bits and pieces to kind of pull it together to stay in this color. So one lucky find at a different consignment store that we only visit occasionally was a set with these two Euro shams, and they're velvety, they're really nice. Same color as the headboard, excellent condition. The back side has a pretty floral pattern. And then here is the quilt that goes with it. I have it on the end of the bed. And this is also in excellent condition. Same floral on the back side. So I paid 50 euro for that, which was a great deal because linens in France I have found to be on the expensive side. So something like this would have been very pricey new. And I have paired that with a vintage chenille bedspread that we brought with us. And then on a chance, I brought our queen sheets with us. Now, a queen bed in the US is a different size than the equivalent size here, but I have found that if you're willing to wiggle a little bit, you can get the queen sheets from the US to fit on a 160 by 200. So that was great because that sheet matched perfectly for this bed that we were putting together. And then these vintage pillowcases here were some that I've had in my collection for years and brought with me. So I was very happy to have a use for those here. And this little throw pillow here was also one that we brought with us. So we've managed to pull a bed together for very, very little money. And I think it looks great. Now, I showed you these lamps before, but of course that was during the daytime, so I don't think you got to see them lit up. But this one, this is an old oil lamp that had at some point in its life been converted to a lamp. Now, when we bought it, the wiring was very old, so Mr. Huff rewired this. You can see he added a switch up here, so it's very easy to turn on and off. And then we found these drum shades on Amazon for 8 euros a piece, which was actually a very good deal because frankly, I've been amazed at how much lampshades go for these days. And on the other dresser, it doesn't look like we have it turned on, but we can go do that. This one is not an exact match, but you can see it has the same blue. And again, another oil lamp that he converted. Now, I gave him the challenging task of setting it up so that they would both visually be the same height, even though they were not necessarily the same. So he has added this piece here. I don't remember what that was off of, to kind of build this out to be the size that we needed. And then what I asked him to do, since these are still actually different sizes, was to make it so that the top of both lampshades were on the same line. So visually, when you look at them, they look the same because the lampshades line up on the top. So that was great, and those were very inexpensive. I would say we probably paid €5 or less for each of those lamps, and then, like I said, 8 for the shades. So compared to like what I've been seeing lamp prices, seems like quite a few lamps in the 100+ range, which is major ouch. Now we also added a bench at the end because we're trying to think through how people would use this room, and we wanted to make sure that somebody who's staying here with us, friends or family, would have a place to either sit down to put on socks or to stick their suitcase so they could sort through things. So this bench was at our favorite thrift store. I would have to go back and look. I think it was like €5. It was really, really cheap. And we sanded it down, and then I put a coat of Osmo on it, which is a good, just a sealer, so that it brought out the color a little bit, but also will make it last and look nice. So anyway, that little short bench was the perfect length for the end of the bed. And then these nightstands were slowly acquired. We have found that it's very difficult to find to find nightstands that match here. I don't know why. I don't know if it just wasn't common to have a set or a pair back in the day. But we bought one and then eventually managed to find another that, even though it's not an exact match, I think from a distance you don't even notice because the color is so similar. So that has worked out. And I should mention that part of the lamp trickery was that we knew we were going to be putting the lamps on these nightstands. So even though they are also slightly different heights, we accounted for that in the lamps. So again, we put that visual even line across the two lamps, so you would never know that the nightstands were not the same. And then we have little marble coasters on both nightstands. So there's a spot for people to put a glass of water at night. These are just like offcuts, and we got these at a discount store. And I think they were maybe like $2 for a set, something really, really cheap. So that is a great little detail. And I think Mr. Huff has got some cords here ready to go for when his sister gets here. So I think that's why that's there. The fan, we don't have air conditioning in the house. It doesn't need to be air conditioned because it's really pretty temperate here. But it is nice at night sometimes on a really hot day, which is a rarity to have a fan. So we've got one at the ready. This is one the previous homeowners left behind. And Mr. Huff, seems like maybe it had an issue that he repaired. And then I think the cage was actually rusty, and he actually took it apart and resprayed it. So it is looking and functioning like a brand new fan. So that's great. Now you may have seen a few weeks back when we got this little dresser. So we have this, because the room is built into the eaves, we have this little short wall here. And to make good use of the space and to add storage to the room, we picked up this little dresser, which at the time was it was more like a wood grain color. So this is like a melamine kind of MDF situation. And we primed it and repainted it white. And so now we have some drawer storage in the room. And I wanted to have that because I thought not only did it add some more space to stick things down on the top surface, but it also would give you some drawers if maybe you were staying here for a little while and you would prefer to not live out of a suitcase. So with our family having to come a great distance to come see us, we figured we're probably going to be staying longer, and we wanted to make sure they had that option to kind of temporarily move in and be a little more comfortable. Okay, so what we're using, this little tiny desk here that we're using as a TV stand, is a piece that I actually purchased at an antique store when I was in college. So this desk, I was told, was used at tobacco auctions. So it was designed to be portable, and you would place it on top of another table. And then, of course, you had a way to lock up your important documents and things inside of it. Or if you're Mr. Huff, you have electrical stuff and binoculars for bird watching out of the skylight. So we've got that here. I'm very glad that we had a space for that in the house because I have just had that forever. I really love that piece. And we've got a TV here and a Roku so that everybody can log into their own accounts and watch whatever they want to, even when they're abroad. Okay, so next detail. This little, what we're using it as a plant stand, is actually from an old cider press. So that would have turned to press the apples or the pears or whatever. So I love having little nods to the local history. And so we have several pieces in the house that are made out of those old pieces. And we did acquire quite a few houseplants with the house. So this spider plant is one of many. And I just think it really finishes out the room nicely. Okay, so I think that's the bedroom side of things, aside from just showing you the closet. So I did include some hangers, and we recently painted all these shelves out inside the closet because they were unfinished and looked unfinished. So that really made that space nicer. And again, I'm choosing to mostly leave this space empty so that people can kind of temporarily unpack, move in, and feel more comfortable in the space. I did include, and continuing to add, some additional not toiletries, but linens, so towels, sheets, bedding, if somebody wants to throw an extra blanket on, that sort of thing. And then a European hairdryer, so people may not have that when they come to visit, and it's just something that they can use while they're here. Okay, so this little sitting room, I think, has really come together nicely. So we initially started with this rug for the space. I found that at the consignment store. And at the time, I just thought it looked like it would be useful somewhere in the house. I did not have a specific place in mind yet. And then it was a happy whatever that when we brought it home, it fit this spot perfectly. So that was the starting point for this sitting area. Then we found this little banquette here at another consignment store that we visit just occasionally. And it's the same exact color as the upholstery on the headboard. We picked that up for €60, which was very reasonable. And it's great because it gives you some kind of couch sitting in the room without having a huge sofa with a major footprint. So it's pretty narrow from the back to the front, and it just fits the space very well. So then you may remember, if you've been watching some of our past videos, I showed you that brocante with the unbelievable garden and just an eye candy store. Everything is amazing. So we found these two chairs once again in that same pink fabric. And I think because we're shooting this at night, I'm not sure that it's reading the right color, but it's like a dusty rose. These were in excellent condition. So we've got these two little slipper chairs, again with small footprint that we were able to use to fill out the sitting area, and they are really quite comfortable and in great condition. So I have been picking up some of these little tables when I find them because, again, there's something that take up very little space. They have a very small footprint, but they add the ability to, like, a drink and a coaster at the end of the sofa or whatever. So I have several of these throughout the house, and I never pay more than €5 for any of them. And this one currently has this needlepoint that I have owned for a lot of years and never had a good spot to hang it in our old house. So I think ultimately we're going to hang it on this wall here. But for now, it's sitting there and still looks cute. All right, so last area to show you, well, and I guess we will show you this nightstand before we move on to the bathroom. So I'm not sure that this will be the ultimate nightstand for this spot, but for now, it's doing the job. So a little inexpensive nightstand that I picked up at a thrift store, and then another set of those marble coasters that we picked up at the discount store for a couple bucks. And I have to say, I'm generally not a huge fan of faux flowers, but these look incredibly real. And I just love knowing that they're always up here looking nice. I don't have to worry about swapping them out or picking up all the dead petals that are falling everywhere or whatever. So that was a good find at the thrift store as well, and very much in keeping with the colors of the room. All right, so final space is the bathroom. Now, this room is essentially a big studio apartment because we've got the bedroom area, we've got the sitting area, and then we have this open plan bathroom. So there are a lot of things going on in this room, and it has required quite a bit of furnishings to make all of the spaces function. So you may notice before we get into all the details of the bathroom that to keep things from being cluttered, some of the things in the room I've chosen to have color, and in other things I've chosen to have them be white so that they sort of recede into the background and don't feel like visual clutter. So they serve a function in the room without adding a whole lot of visual clutter. So like the dresser over there, the plant stand, you'll see quite a few things in the bathroom white just to kind of keep things visually as simple as possible. Okay, so this little commode here, I purchased from the previous homeowner, or vanity, whatever you would prefer to call that, for €10. So that was a great deal. That was originally in our primary bathroom, but we've moved it over here, and it really functions very well in this space. So it's got a little towel rack on the end of it, and I happened to bring some of my vintage towels with me, and that was a little bit serendipitous because some of the towels, as you'll see, are pink and worked perfectly in this room. So pink has never really been a color that I have chosen to decorate with in the past, so it really is kind of funny that we had those and were able to put them to use. Okay, so since this is going to be used as a space for friends and family when they come to visit, we went ahead and included a water pitcher and some drinking glasses on a tray because we don't have street lights. The house is incredibly dark at night, which I love. It's great for sleeping. But if you're not familiar with the house, you probably don't want to have to get up in the middle of the night and try to navigate around. So water in the room, easy to access. And then here is the pink lady that I showed you that I brought back with us on our last trip to the US. This was my great-grandmother's, and it's something that when she was living, she specifically gave to me and wanted me to have. So it was on her mantle for years, And so I was really happy to get it back here to our house and to have a perfect spot for it because she fits in beautifully with our color scheme in this room. And this little painting I've also owned for years. It hung in our youngest daughter's room when we were still living in the US. And so now we've got a perfect spot for it here in this room. And it just matches perfectly with the color of the vanity. All right, so the faucet in this bathroom was broken. The cold water tap did not work. So Mr. Huff swapped that out. So I think that was one of our only purchases in this room. The toothbrush holder is marble. It was at that discount store where we got the coasters, and that was only $1.99 or €1.99. So that was very affordable. Okay, here is another frugal thing. This foaming dispenser also came with us when we moved here. So it's designed to save us money because you fill up liquid hand soap up to the line here, and then you fill it the rest of the way up to this line with water and give it a good shake, and you have your own foaming hand soap refill. It works beautifully, and it makes your liquid soap refills last forever. So do not regret bringing those with us, even though that's such a silly little detail. All right, light fixtures. When we moved here, the two sconces on either side of the sink were mismatched, noticeably mismatched. So I looked for quite a while. I finally came across this set at a consignment store. I love all of the little crystals and things. So they had very poor wiring. Mr. Huff redid them all. Now they've got LED bulbs in them as well. And they're just awesome in this room. So that was worth the wait because they really are beautiful. All right, so bathroom. Rug I found at a thrift store for a couple euro. And then hamper I managed to find at our consignment store. I think that was $5 maybe. And then here's another one of those towels that I was saying we brought with us. This one is great because you can see through my shadow in the dark. It has a H embroidered on it, or cross-stitched on it rather. So nice little personal detail that I just happened to find. It was probably at a yard sale. It could have been a thrift store years ago. So I hung on to those. And I'm not sure its colors are reading in the dark, but it's green on pink. So it's a fun little pop of color. And then Mr. Huff got the tub sorted out. He's done a new drain and things, and this is an awesome tub. It is very, very deep, so it holds a ton of water. So it's just a really nice thing to have in the room up here. Now, there was not any storage, any like closed storage in the bathroom. So I found this little cabinet, which was kind of a pine color, and we spray painted it white. It was actually a kitchen upper cabinet, and to make it a floor cabinet as we did, we put some little feet on it that we had them in our collection. So and then you can see we're using this to store essentials like toilet paper, cleaning supplies, and anything that we can think of that somebody might need when they're staying here. So just a little bit of storage without having everything out in the open. Again, more visual clutter. So very pleased with that solution. And then this shelf here over the toilet was here when we bought the house. And I have very intentionally left it essentially empty because I want people to have adequate space to put out their own toiletries and things when they're here, and just really to be comfortable in the space. So that was there functioning well, and it just stayed. So I think that is pretty much this room. At this point, I feel like this is probably the most complete room that we have in the house, there's really very little that I think I would change in it at this point. Maybe just eventually swapping out for a antique bronze faucet on the tub, but that'll probably only happen when it breaks and needs to be replaced. And I think this is a very inviting space. Mr. Huff and I stayed up here for a couple months just to really kick the wheels and make sure everything functioned the way it needed to see if we could think of things that the room might need. And I think that really helped us to understand the space and what it needed to function well. So a detail that I haven't mentioned that is a good example of that is because we were staying up here, we noticed, it really is very dark at night. And especially if you're not familiar with the room, it would be very difficult to get up to go to the bathroom or whatever in the middle of the night. And so that prompted us to add night lights. So we have 3 of them in the room. This one here for this side of the bed. We have another one tucked in away by that little dresser. So if somebody on the other side of the bed is trying to get up, there's that one. And there's a 3rd one tucked on the back wall of the bathroom. Now these are all motion activated, which means the room is completely dark when you're sleeping unless you get up. And the minute you get up, it turns on, but it's backlit, so it's a very soft light. So it's not something that's going to disturb somebody else when they're sleeping, but it's just something that allows you to be comfortable getting up in the middle of the night, safely get up in the middle of the night, even though you may not be super familiar with the space. So that's just an example of all of the tiny little details that we've tried to think through to make this somewhere that people are really going to enjoy staying.